Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Casually Hardcore Podcast, episode 60. Joining us, we're happy to welcome for the first time Tate Golden Tot, taking time out of your day to come talk to us about. I think we're going to be focusing in on Horizon Zero Dawn, PC, Final Fantasy XIV, Phantasy Star Online 2. We have a lot of at least games that I think we like in common, and so we're going to get his perspective on all of those in the show. Tate, for those who don't know you, who haven't seen your stream, why don't you give a brief introduction of what you do and how long you've been doing it and what keeps you going?
Oh man. So I am currently focused on streaming mostly. I do highlight videos on YouTube as well. Been doing it for probably somewhere near to like 15 years now. I play a lot of MMOs. That's kind of my focus. So it's got some good topics here today, some good juicy stuff.
So on that, like the MMOs that we obviously have in common, Final Fantasy XIV being one of them. What other MMOs, like just to highlight those who might not have seen your content outside of 14, especially because of its dominance with Shadowbringers? Like, what other MMOs, like as a highlight, if you were going to pick like a handful?
So I grew up on a lot of free to play games, a lot of free to play MMOs. So we've got stuff like Maple Story and Vindictus and stuff like that. And then up to like, I dabbled a little bit in WoW and then mostly 14 for the last 6 some odd years. And now PSO2 is coming to the West, so I'm going to be playing a lot of that.
Now, you've been playing PSO2 on the Japanese servers, right?
Yeah, I played back in 2014 for about 6 months and then dropped off because I was like, I'll just wait for NA to come out. And then that was a pipe dream. And now NA's coming out. So I'm getting back into it to learn as much as I can.
You and I have kind of like almost the polar opposite of that story. It was like, oh, right. Okay, it's out in Japan. Oh, NA is going to eventually come out. And then it was like, it started to dissipate. And then it's like, if it's not coming to NA, I'll love it from afar, and then they announced it and I was like, all right, now I'm going to go play over in Japan so I can figure out
you gotta learn as much as you can before it comes out,
just so I can come in, especially from a content creation perspective. That way I have an inherent,
gotta make your guides, man.
Gotta make those guides, dude. Gotta get that SEO. So on that, I just want to say that we do want to thank you for coming on. You guys can catch this podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud. Usually goes out on audio form a couple days after the video form, which you can find on YouTube and here on Twitch after the fact. I do want to thank our channel members and Twitch subscribers, namely Kenneth, Leland, George, and Kyle. Thank you guys for your support of the channel and the podcast. That is what is sponsoring this show today. So if you guys missed our last show, we had DM21 Gaming talking about kind of the state of Blessed Unleashed and Temtem. He is really playing that game a lot and enjoying it. Oh, yeah? Oh, dude.
I really love that game.
What's your main? Like, which one did you pick as your starter?
The Crystal.
Oh, okay.
I love Crystal. He's green. Well, of course I'm going to pick him.
I went with the mind. I called mine Mindbender, so I don't know his true name, but I was just like, oh, it's the mental one.
It starts with an H, I think. I don't remember.
Yeah, something like that. But I love Temtem. Chris dove in. He completely surpassed me in that game and all. So yeah, maybe we'll even talk about some Temtem today. Also next week, guys, if you're interested, Avalon Star returns to the podcast. We're going to be talking probably with him the state of Destiny and the state of Final Fantasy XIV, because there's just sometimes a weird correlation that, like, I've even seen other people start to make that connection, that a lot of Final Fantasy XIV players seem to also like Destiny. Not all, it's not encompassing, but two games that seem to go well together.
They both have the same progression system, so they're pretty enticing.
Yeah, and it gives you, like, that's where when somebody just plays one game, because I don't know if you see it on stream, and that's where I'm teasing it out, but when we talk about the state of 14, it's inevitable, especially around the 0.2 and 0.3 time as a content creator. I get a lot of people just frustrated, and they are confused as to why. Like, they're frustrated. They're like, I had such a great experience with the game, and then now during the kind of the transitional period till 6, it's like, I get it. Maybe we'll talk about it, because I've talked about it at length. I know a lot of people they like to meme on me for it, and I'm happy to be memed on it. Because, hey, it's a service that I provide. So anyway, with that, let's dive into Horizon Zero Dawn. For the news, if those aren't aware, it's been rumored for a while, but Horizon Zero Dawn is confirmed for a PC release this summer. And on Twitch, Twitter, a lot of people are frustrated. And I take the stance that I think it's more shock. Like, I've seen people call them whiners and babies and, et cetera, for PlayStation fans. I just think it's out of shock. I don't think Sony has prepared them for what is really changing in the market. And I don't know if Sony and themselves are prepared for the market shift, but I'm sure they'll adjust just fine. And I posted a video about it. But you said you watched a little bit of that video. What is your take on a 3-year-old quote unquote exclusive? I don't know if you've seen it, but I've seen lots of tweets saying false advertising, false advertising, false advertising. Tate, I'm going to give you the floor. I want to get your thoughts, your perspective. And I'm sure I'm crazy, but go ahead.
Okay, so I do own the game. So here's my problem with that game specifically. So I don't have like a huge opinion on the whole market or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like exclusives. I don't like console exclusives.
Yeah.
I own every console, but I'd like the option to play it on whatever I want if that option is available. So there are a couple games that come to mind when it comes to like PlayStation 4 specifically is Horizon Zero Dawn and Bloodborne.
Yeah.
Both run like absolute garbage on PlayStation. So the fact that Horizon's coming to PC excites the hell out of me. And I own the game. Like I'll buy it again for PC. That's totally fine for me because I'll get to experience it in this like ultra HD, like great frame rate. And I'm a huge stickler for that kind of thing. Like I don't really care about the graphics or anything like that, but if the frame rate's chugging along, it's going to affect my ability to enjoy and play it. And both Bloodborne and Horizon both suffer from that issue a little bit.
Do you have a PlayStation 4 Pro or just a normal PlayStation?
Yeah, I have a Pro.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure that if we're going to pair that you're like, I'm running the best version of PlayStation out there.
I got a Pro with an SSD. I got the SSD for like Monster Hunter World when that came out.
So some of the arguments that I see that from the fan base, and again, I get it from where they're coming from, because I would argue that Microsoft has been preparing Xbox players for years with Play Anywhere. Like people were like, "Oh, Play Anywhere, it's great." That wasn't initially the majority reaction. Now, when people thought about it, they're like, "Oh, wait, you mean I don't need to own an Xbox to play Microsoft games?" It has helped probably that Microsoft hasn't released any games. I mean, let's just be real.
Yeah,
like they have really struggled this generation. Go ahead, sorry.
The fact that they also own Windows 10, it makes sense for them to release it on both Xbox and Windows 10 because those are their platforms.
Here's what Microsoft needs to do, and this is what I really want them to do. They need to support PlayStation 4 controllers out the gate natively, just like they do Xbox. I think that would be a real positive step in what
Windows.
Yeah. Right now, you have to do a third-party thing. People want to use that. Here, and as a parent, I like my Xbox controller. It fits my hand perfectly. You know what works better for my kids? The PlayStation 4 controller. They got smaller hands. They're children. I'm not making a comparison to anybody culturally here. I'm just saying that it works for them, and I wish that was something that I could just hook up to the Xbox or the Nintendo. Now, that's the future that I'm hoping for.
Yeah, I like the Switch Pro controller. That's my go-to.
Where is mine? Like, oh, it's all downstairs because I've been playing a Mario Kart with Maddie in the evenings. The Switch Pro controller. That's great. The controllers that suck are like out of all of them, the Stadia ones, they're okay.
You have a Stadia?
Oh hell yeah, dude! Stadia works fantastically because I'm also in a city. It's like hands down. I've been actually playing 14 in the cloud since June 2019. Like it works amazingly.
I love that because I love like Steam Link and stuff, playing my stuff on my phone, kicking back with it.
My other I got a Samsung phone that I've been using for development, and so I've got GeForce Now, Shadow PC, Stadia. The only thing that I have yet to be approved for is xCloud, and that is kind of where this conversation around like Horizon Zero Dawn is almost centered, because the other thing I see people say is there's going to be no reason to own a PlayStation if their exclusives are also on PC. What's your take with that? Because there is a financial investment that Sony has made in these studios because they are an exclusive. That's where I can see people making that argument. What do you think?
Well, I feel like that's not entirely true because like one of the big perks to owning a console is not having to like worry about future proofing it over the next like 5 years, right? Mm-hmm. With like a PC, you've got to worry constantly about different parts and continuously putting money into that machine so it stays up to date. Whereas everything developed for a PlayStation or an Xbox or any console in general is going to be optimized for that system specifically. So you end up paying a lot less in the long run. And I feel like that's the main draw to a console.
That is
exclusive. I mean, exclusives sell. Like that's very obvious, but like I don't know. Nobody's buying a PlayStation 3 years later for Horizon Zero Dawn. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
like if somebody bought a PlayStation today and was like, "Yes, finally, I could finally play Horizon," it's just like a little late, buddy.
See,
I kind of missed that
my
train.
PS4 died, and that was like, I'm not negative on Sony. It died at a position where, assuming that the PS5 comes out this year, and that's where we need to put an asterisk by, because with global issues, we don't know. Like Xbox could be delayed, but more likely Sony would be delayed this year.
Mhm.
Um, like I was sitting here, I was like, well, I mean, it seems silly for me to run out and buy another PS4 when in like I think it was I was 15 months. Like it's 15. It was about a little not a year ago, but it will be a year and some change from when I don't have a PS4 anymore. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna wait for the PS5. Like I could spend $400 and get a Pro, or I could spend probably $500 and get a 5 if I just wait. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna wait. And that's why with 14 coming to Xbox, I'm thrilled because our Xbox still runs, so my wife will come back to play 14 with me.
I'm gonna buy it on Xbox just to use the streaming to my phone, just entirely
Oh
for
yeah,
that.
XCloud, and if XCloud comes to Switch, baby, 14 will inevitably have Switch be on the Switch.
Well, it's not even XCloud. They have a beta streaming service specifically just to stream Xbox to your phone, like in your home.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's really nice. I've been using that a lot, just kicking back on the couch.
The other thing I want to kind of get your thoughts on, because I think when people look at the exclusives selling consoles, that's true. That's how it's been. That's not how it's going to be. It's like when people make the argument, I always see it like, you're telling me how the industry was. How the industry is changing is you see services like Game Pass, you see services like PlayStation Now. And I would say PlayStation Now is going to be something that they set up to compete with Game Pass. I hope, at least that's what I'm rooting for. They've somewhat done it because they brought Horizon Zero Dawn to it. They brought God of War to it in different limited things, I'm sure, to test itself. But I could see them positioning it to where the reason why you would buy maybe a PlayStation or a console is for that experience, like you said. It's an affordable way to have a quality experience with gaming that you don't have to worry about upgrading every year. But PlayStation Now is going to be how you are in the ecosystem. Xbox Game Pass is going to be how you're in the Microsoft ecosystem. Switch Online, like I see that more or less that people are going to be selling these kind of ecosystems of games, of discounts, of whatever, and allow you to stream in there. Microsoft just signed a deal with Samsung. And why that's really significant is that not only is that going to put xCloud on every Samsung phone, that's also going to put xCloud on every Samsung TV. That's good. It's just going to be everywhere that you are. Like you're going to just get up and you're going to be like, I feel like playing a game in outside today. Well, there you go. You're no longer going to be tied. And I see that's where the industry is going to be shifting, and obviously anytime I bring up cloud gaming, hands down, network architecture is a bottleneck. Data caps, massive bottleneck. My hope is that with the demand increasing, that puts pressure on ISPs, that changes, that shows investment more into that. Overall, what's your take? It seems like your dog's poking their head in.
My cat, yeah.
Oh, it's a cat.
Yeah, I got a couple of cats that are pretty rambunctious. Um, yeah, well, somebody in chat just pointed it out, and so I actually just bought an Xbox like last week. No particular reason, no specific MMO just got announced for it or anything. I don't know what you're talking about, but
Unleashed, or are you talking about 14?
I'm talking about PSO.
Oh, PSO, got it.
I bought an Xbox specifically for PSO2. Even though it's coming to PC, it's going to be on Xbox for a little bit first, and
The 17th.
I'm very excited. But so exclusives, yeah, I think I agree with you on that. Exclusives aren't going to be the console seller for quite a while. But somebody in chat pointed it out. Game Pass is incredible. I don't know anything about PS Now. I haven't used my PlayStation in quite some time, but the Xbox Game Pass, like, I got 3 months free with the Xbox, and I have been going ham on that. I have been playing so much stuff through it, and I think that's an awesome service. I mean, it's how much is it? It's like 15 a month or something like that.
Yes and no. So it has a couple different tiers. The 15 a month is what they call Ultimate, which gets you gold. So like you're playing online. It also gets you PC. So like on your PC, like they've got it's Game Pass, so that not all games are on Xbox and on PC, etc. Because it's like some of them are coded differently, like like an RTS or something like that. And you want to play Age of Empires, like that's on PC. So that is what it gets you for 15. Otherwise, it's just $10 a month by itself. Last year as a promotion at E3, and so if you guys are on the fence, just wait till E3. And I know that it's probably canceled, but they're probably going to do some kind of promotion in which that you got to upgrade your existing Xbox Live Gold time to Ultimate time for $1. And so I got 3 years of Ultimate for $1, not $1 a month, for $1. And so that was something that was massive. We talked about it last year, and they've been doing promotions in which that it's like you'll find it for $1 or $3 or what have you. So it's just insane.
Yeah, mine came with 3 months for like $1 or something like that.
They advertise it with like 100 games, and it's like I think if you could look, it's way larger than 100. I've seen it like probably in the uppers of 150 or maybe even 200 games that they like. The idea was
like new releases. A lot of them are crazy new releases too.
Well, Xbox has said Microsoft committed that, and this is a leadership thing. So Microsoft isn't dictating to developers what they should do. They're leading and saying this is what we're doing and letting devs choose to follow. Cyberpunk 2077 is a great example of this, in which that they have this with the Xbox. It's called Smart Delivery. It's a stupid marketing term. It just means if you buy a game in our ecosystem, you own that game. And that is how it is. You're not going to pay for upgrades. If you buy it on Xbox One, it's still an Xbox Series X game. And it's like it's just your game. And so they call that smart delivery, and it's just marketing BS. It's like, but if they put a label on it, fine. And so you're seeing that, but they're also putting forth that all of their games are play anywhere. All of their games are in Game Pass day one, and so that means Fable, that means Halo Infinity, that means Gears, that means etc. And that means that I don't think I will ever unsubscribe from this service because it's
Fable. Is there a new Fable game coming out?
I can't confirm.
I don't know if I want a new Fable game.
I've got hopes. I think I would say that if anything else, we'll learn about it really soon. So
okay,
yeah. So it's been in the works. We'll have to. If it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad. Like at the end of the day,
I love the classic Fable. That's one of my favorite games. So I mean,
the gamer in me, the 14 player in me, like I hope that if they do a Fable, like they announce it, it's a multiplayer like games as a service game. Like it's just something that's going to evolve and grow. Like that's what draws me in. That's why I keep coming back to 14. That's why I keep coming back to these MMOs.
Always new content, yeah.
Well, and Phantasy Star Online too. Let's jump into that for a little bit, because I think we both kind of agreed. Like ultimately, I think that PlayStation gamers that are upset about Horizon Zero Dawn are in the right, because I don't think Sony has prepared them for this change. People have unsubbed to me because I've been saying, guys, it's coming to PC, etc. That's fine. I get it. It sucks to to hear it for the first time, but I think they'll come back as soon as they're like, oh, okay, this isn't a bad thing. This isn't the be all end all.
I think that brand loyalty is really stupid. I think that's the worst, because you're not like, a company's going to do what's in its best interest as far as financial decisions go. They don't care about the one person who's going to get angry that it's on another console. You've already paid. They've got your money. They do not care.
Well, do you think it's false advertising? Because if they say it's like, because on the box for Horizon Zero Dawn, it says only on PlayStation.
I mean, it's not the first time this has happened, but this is the biggest stink I've ever seen about it.
Well, the people who are making the false advertising, like you have to go look at the law, like, because it's like they're making an emotional argument and try to present it that it's a legal one, and it's that you would have to prove at the time, knowingly and with intent to deceive, that they were trying to advertise falsely. So like 3 years ago, Sony was saying, all right, guys, here's the plan. We're going to tell them it's only on PlayStation, and then 3 years are going to go by, and then it's not. It's like they didn't know 3 years ago that was the plan. So it's like you'd have to have evidence of the fact. And so that was just kind of the argument that I was giving them.
I don't get it. I don't know why people are upset about it. I don't know. You enjoyed it 3 years ago. Now people can enjoy it today,
It's just it's like, again, I think it's shock. I think it's that they're caught off guard because like this is how it used to be, how consoles used to sell.
Mm-hmm.
The console wars mean something to them. And it's fun. I think the console wars have always been fun. It's fun to rag on each other. I've always kind of liked to root for the underdog. So like back when the PS3 was like the worst, like that's where I was like, oh man, Sony's actually doing really good things. Like they're making changes. The reason you want to be subscribed is you get free games. You know, like they're doing things, and that competition I think is needed. And the worst thing that could happen is Sony decide to get out of gaming, or if Microsoft decided to get out of gaming, or if Nintendo, like I don't think Nintendo will, whatever. They're just off doing their own thing, kind of like they're in their own sandbox. They're just kind of like we're just doing our thing. But I think that competition, the best thing that happened to Xbox was Sony kicked its ass this last generation, and it forced them to say like, what are we about? Like, what are we going to do? And then it's in their best business interest. And then at the same time, that business interest also hopefully aligns with the consumer demand and what gamers have been wanting for a long time in the long run. So Phantasy Star Online 2. Let's shift topics a little bit because like that's something we both love. Content, you know, we talk about Fable and hopefully that I think it'd be great as a games as a service game. The thing that we have, both of us, with Phantasy Star Online 2, we already have a roadmap that's proven. You know, like we're getting episode 4, and we already know there's already more episodes, there's more classes. There is a roadmap of content that the game is going to receive for several years to get us to at least where Japan is today. And who knows, like if they continue to support the game in Japan, I would be surprised if they don't.
They've actually talked about it already.
Right.
I believe they plan to go up to episode 7 and support the game for another 4 to 5 years in JP right now. Who knows if that'll continue going within the next few years, but they've talked about it, yeah.
So it's like, for me, like as a player who waited, and the only reason I went and played is from the content creation perspective, but we've seen a lot of people thinking the community's already established over in Japan, they're just going to stay over there. I think that if nothing, yeah, like I've content creation gives me like a high level end of, I get a ton of different opinions. So it's really fun for me to try to.
No, I get it. Yeah. People come into like Twitch chat all the time and talk about that kind of stuff. But yeah.
So it's like, as far as it goes though, the end of the day, like I think this is the best thing for the game itself. Why are you as a player going to make that transition to North America? Why, as a player, went and bought an Xbox for this? And why would you make that case to other gamers, or are you just a rare exception?
I think I'm definitely probably a rare exception.
You're exceptional. So, but talk to me about Phantasy Star Online 2. Why is it great? Why should people play it?
It's got big anime. No, it's good.
It's got jiggle physics.
It does. It's a little. There was I don't know if you've seen the old JP Beta clip. Yep. Yeah. The character creation from JP Beta like 8 years ago. It was so funny.
Oh my gosh.
But, so PSO2 is this incredible game. A lot of people have played PSO growing up. A lot of people played it on Dreamcast, on GameCube, on Xbox, what have you. Maybe they played Universe or something. Maybe they played episode 1 and 2 or 4. But it's just this like legendary series at this point. And when PSO2 got announced and they were talking about MMOs, I was so excited. And I remember back in 2012, they were at PAX and had an English release planned at PAX.
It was on the website for the longest time.
That's why PSO2.com exists, is because of that PAX display. They just had a section for it, so I could put them up, and they were like, yeah, it's coming out in 2012. We're bringing it to NA in 2012. And then radio silence for 8 years. We got nothing.
And to the point where like I'd randomly go check out the site, and it's like they've quietly taken off the NA release and all of that. It's brought by, like, the reason why it's coming here to the West is because Microsoft's Phil Spencer said that he teamed up with Sega to bring it here, and then said it's also available to come to PlayStation and other platforms. I really like. I'm assuming
it's on every platform in JP.
Yeah, it runs on Switch, it runs on PlayStation, PC.
Well, they use like a cloud version for some consoles, like Vita and Switch both use cloud versions, I believe.
Oh, absolutely. That's actually the strength of the cloud, is that, like all of a sudden you're sitting here like, hey, you can play this game anywhere.
I think cloud gaming is going to be an insane leap in the future once the infrastructure is laid down in
Yeah.
there. Because
Now,
right now it's just not, it's not readily available to everybody is the only issue.
what's interesting is like if you go back in time and you actually study technological adaptation, is that there's a kind of the early adopters, and then there's mass adoption, and then you kind of get the last percent, and that usually happens over a period span of 10 years. So
I'm still waiting on VR, man. I need that mass adoption.
I think, good luck.
Yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
have VR, and honestly, the biggest the regret I have with VR is I didn't get the Quest. And the reason is that like, and it's only because when I look at my life, and it's not to say that VR can't work. It's just when I evaluated, like the Quest
You
would
gotta
allow me.
dedicate a lot of time and resources to it.
And as a parent, I don't have a lot of time and resources. Where with the Quest, I could take it to friends' houses. I could play it downstairs. We could toss it up on the like. There's so many other options. And so in hindsight, because I was doing some VR development, I was like, okay, time to go and dive in. And then it's like, oh, from a gaming perspective, this would have been better if I just invested in the Quest, same price. So it's like in hindsight, that's what I put out a video on. Everybody's like, you're down on VR.
I'm a big connoisseur of VR, so I know exactly what you mean. I own a Quest, I own a Vive, I own an Index.
Are you getting the Half-Life?
Yeah, it came with my Index. I'm very excited about it.
I'm excited for you. I can't wait to get your thoughts on that because I've seen some stuff. I think the thing with VR and the thing with cloud, very similar in terms of I can show you a video, but it's nothing like until you go hands-on. When I talk about cloud and people get upset, is because in their mind they're thinking, I don't want to play with lag. And I go, I don't either.
That was my first experience with like I think it was PlayStation Now when it first launched.
Yeah.
They had the cloud streaming for like older games or so. I tried to play like Ni no Kuni or something when the PS Now launched, and it was miserable. I just had the worst experience. And I had pretty good internet at the time, but it being new, they had a lot of stuff to work out, I'm sure.
And it's been a long period of time. And so like when you go hands-on with cloud gaming and you're like, there is no lag here. Like I'm pressing the button and they're responding. And the fact is that they're working to make it even faster with predictive with AI so that it's going to render like all the possibilities and then deliver to you that experience. It's just going to be, I think people are going to be really excited about it because I think the other resistance to it, like there's issues, right? We need to talk ownership. We need to talk just how this is going to work within the gaming economy. There's things that gamers have to fight for because we could lose. We could lose our rights, our rights for like owning our game and things like that. And I think those are valid concerns. Okay,
that's a big issue with like Nintendo stuff.
Nintendo especially, for as great as their games are, man, like they are just
you lose any semblance of your account and all your games are just gone.
Bye. Sorry. Thanks for playing. Bye again. We're Nintendo.
You can't have them on more than one console. It's awful. It's really bad.
Yeah. And so, but like outside of like the DRM and ownership, it's that you're going hands on and you're like, holy crap, like this is actually working. And then it kind of frees you. I was sitting down with a lot of former gamers, like a lot of my family were avid gamers. Some are doctors. One works in an ER. And I was sitting here, I was like, yeah. And he's like he always likes to hear what people are playing because he still has that passion. And I was like, oh yeah, like I was playing this game and I was on Stadia. And he's like, what? What's Stadia? And I go, oh, you just, if you got the internet, you just play the game. You don't have to like when I said you don't have to update it and it's free, he was like, that sounds amazing. Like I just have to buy the game. Like, yeah. And he's like, that's exactly what I want because like he doesn't have to go make an investment like in a console because he knows that he's probably not going to have the time that he wants, but he would totally buy the game. And so cloud gaming, I think from an initial adoption is going to try to appeal to the fallen away gamers who are tired of upgrading their PC, who are not able to go out and buy a console because it just doesn't make sense. Like when they run the numbers, they're like, why would I spend $500 for something I'm going to play, an hour or two a month? It's like, no. But all of a sudden you're like, just pay $60 and you can stream the game wherever you are as long as you have the internet. Then there you go. And so then hopefully that, it draws in more people, more money, more investment, hopefully solves the issues that are obviously present. Back to Phantasy Star though, because obviously it runs on Switch via the cloud. I think that's kind of where we got on that tangent.
Somebody did correct me. The Vita version uses a cartridge, but the Switch is the cloud.
Yeah, the Switch is the cloud version. It's so awesome for me to kind of jump back into it.
Mhm.
I came from Phantasy Star, the original, like on Dreamcast. That was my introduction to the online RPG, and fell in love. My dad went above and beyond because it only ran on dial-up on Dreamcast when it first happened, but we had broadband,
That game was so ahead of its time.
and so ahead of its time that it's so frustrating when a game launches and it completely doesn't understand what a looter is about. Like it's a, it's an online RPG, but it's about, there's a loot aspect, and they have this so well done, so thought
Mhm.
out that it frustrates me that games come out today that have been influenced by it. Destiny's been heavily influenced by Phantasy Star, but then you
Mhm.
have other games that is like, man, whew, like just go out and play this game, guys, and you'll get it. Just figure it out. And Fantasy Star Online 2 takes it with the upgrades. The thing I argued, I was like, every drop has value to me. The value is going to range, but I'm never finding loot that I'm like, I'm just like, give it all. I'm going to use it to upgrade. I'm going to sell it. Like, there's always something that I can choose to do with it. Where in Anthem, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to take 10 feet to go run over and pick up that color because it has no value to me.
Yeah.
It's like that should never happen. Everything that
Oh, I mean
drops.
that does happen in PSO2, I think.
Oh yeah,
When you get to a certain point.
what
Like
point is that?
I don't pick up anything that's not red, basically.
Okay.
If it's not, so I basically ignore everything that's lower than 9 star or lower than 10 star, because at that point it's like I'm not getting anything out of it. Yeah, I could pick it up and I could vendor it, but I'm already making millions off of other things.
How many hours of investment did it take to get to that point?
Mm, well, I mean, I've only really been heavy back into the game for maybe the last, I'm going to say 2.5 weeks or so.
Mm-hmm. But total hours,
Um,
like, are you at 50 hours, 100 hours? What would you estimate?
Probably about around 50 to 100 on the character I'm playing right now. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, that's actually interesting to hear because like I had that different. I have a totally different experience, but obviously, yeah, at some point you're like, well,
Oh yeah, well I've definitely dabbled in Endgame. I've got a 95 character. I'm working on multiple other classes, getting those to cap. And
why
it's
why play multiple characters?
multiple characters or multiple classes?
Well, both. Like, why? Because you
Well,
get
multiple
three.
classes, just because. Well, first off, in PSO2, there are titles in the game for doing a lot of different things. There are titles for getting all of the base classes up to 75.
Mm-hmm.
And each of those titles gives you permanent stats to your character across all your classes. So getting all of your classes to 75 is extremely beneficial, just for a stat perspective, because
Mm-hmm.
you get more out of it. Multiple characters. So here's actually something beautiful about PSO2 that a lot of people don't know. Alts are extremely good to have in PSO2. So your titles are across your entire account. A lot of the cosmetics you get are across your entire account as well. So I don't think we're going to start out with them, but there are a class of jobs in that game called successor jobs,
Mm-hmm.
where once you get 2 level 75 characters, you unlock 3 other jobs, which are Hero, Phantom, and Etoile. Those you can start as those on your alts if you have them on your main.
Oh,
You
that's
can
awesome.
you
That
can
is
just
awesome.
immediately start, and they're strong. So you're going to have an easier time leveling and getting stuff done on your alt. So your alts also get dailies and weeklies just like your main does, and you can make millions of in-game currency just by running them on your alts every day.
Are you able to trade between your alts and your like
Yeah,
etc.?
you just bank them.
What about your mags? Are you able to trade mags between your characters?
I don't know. I mean, I could literally hop on right now and tell you.
Because I was somebody asked me that, and I was like, actually, I don't know. I've never thought about trading my
I'm
mags.
I'm logging in as we speak just to find out.
Cool.
And
All right, we'll find the answer live on the show today.
I was wondering that too, because I've got 4 mags for each stat, and I'm just
that's
like,
incredible. See, because that's one of the things that, like, when building out a free, like, just if you're gonna have a free experience, you can have 3 characters.
if you're going completely free, it's a little more rough as far as mags go, especially because you can only have 1 mag if you're going completely free.
Right.
Unless they have I'm wondering if they'll have like events or anything, because they're doing a battle pass system on NA. Yeah,
They are.
that's a thing. I'm very interested in that.
It's something they also have some kind of. Sorry, they might be doing a battle pass, which would be cool. But I think what I thought I heard was the Game Pass. So Xbox Game Pass is working with PSO2. and I think it gets you some storage. Who knows if it's going to get you any other things? I think that's going to be ultimately
That would
interesting
be
to see.
actually, that would make a lot of sense because we're not getting the mobile games in NA. We're not getting PSO2 ES. And linking that with your account actually gets you another 100 to 300 slots of storage. So that would make a lot of sense if that was just a Game Pass thing.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, we'll have to wait to see. I'm so excited because it's the 17th. It's next week, same
Next
time.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
I have raids. I had
Yeah.
a raid in Final Fantasy at that exact time, and I talked my group into rescheduling that day just so I could play PSO2 on launch.
Oh man, that's a true fan there. On the concept of raids in Phantasy Star, where you look that up, obviously, yeah. Let's talk about raiding within 14 because some people have asked me like, "Hey, how's the Endgame in PSO versus 14?" I go, "It's different."
It's very different, yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it's different. I wouldn't expect that you're going to sit here and say, "Oh, it's the exact same thing." I think 14 has a beautiful curated raid structure in with the current version of the Eden raids. What do you think about Eden as a raid series, and what do you think about the current state of Savage raiding?
So I really like this tier. I think it's one of the better tiers we've gotten in quite some time.
Most lore filled in my mind, but yeah.
Yeah. The lore in the raid series haven't been very strong up to this point. We had Coil, and that was kind of it was the first. My cat's going crazy. It was kind of the first thing in that regard, and then the next two raid series were just like, okay, whatever. The story it's there. It doesn't matter. Also, you cannot transfer your mags for sure.
Yeah, I didn't think you would because I was like, you get 3 characters, you get 3 mags, and it's like if you could transfer them, it's like I made my 3 characters, I dropped my 3 mags onto my main.
That's true.
And that way I can have my 3 stats that I'm shooting for.
I never thought of that.
Actually, 4 stats. So yeah, there's 4 different mag builds that ultimately you want. And somebody was asking me like, why do you not want to focus in on armor? It's like it's a game where you can dodge, you can not take damage, and so if you dodge. You don't need to worry about that. You can focus.
If you're good at the game, you won't need armor,
So that's where it's like, if you suck, like, all right, here's my. I'm tired of getting hit.
Well, I mean, Endgame is like a lot of the Endgame in PSO2 is very much if you get hit by one attack, you're probably dead. It's rough. Like the ultra hard difficulty really ramps it up.
That's awesome. I love that kind of concept. I wish that we would see something of a scaling difficulty when it comes to the end game within 14, and not necessarily the Savage. We asked Yoshi P about this. We were all out at the media tour.
Savage Plus or something like that.
Well, it was that we called it Savage Plus. It was just that I would love a way that like you could run a dungeon and it was like on a weekly rotator, and every time you beat the dungeon levels up. You can keep yourself locked, but it's like, let's say like Savage Raiders, Ultimate Raiders could get to plus 100. And then like maybe I would get to plus 10 or plus 15, but I'm always going to have that challenge. And then you tack on the Heaven on High scenario system in which you have modifiers that can be applied so that like, as you go further and further into your quest of that, that it's going to find the challenge that's right for you. So you're gonna, because like right now, like people are like, oh yeah, like I can't do the extreme. Like I've been playing this game for 10 years. The extreme roulette, like I avoid because I just don't want to be mad at the game because it's like I just can't do it. Like I've done it before, and it's kind of like, well, once more into the breach, but like there's other things that I'd rather do to earn my in-game currency, and the only thing that I want to do right now is do the ocean fishing. Maybe Diadem. Maybe I haven't logged in.
I've been in Diadem since it launched. I've been running around Diadem.
What do you think about it? 3rd time's a charm.
It's they made it useful finally, and that's about it really. I mean, it's fun.
Yeah.
If you like gathering in Final Fantasy XIV, you'll like Diadem. If you don't, then you'll hate Diadem.
I like that it's also connected to the Ishgardian Restoration, so there's demand, but beyond just the curiosity of the material and the blasting people with cannons. There is a market demand, so that going in there is going to yield a value to you, especially if you're looking to gather and make a lot of money and a lot of profit on the content itself. So back to Savage and that rating. So you rescheduled obviously for this week because of Phantasy Star Online 2, but we talked a little bit about the lore and how it is, but what's your read? Because obviously this is kind of in the in between before the expansion. What do you say to your chat? What kind of mood is your chat coming in with the raids?
I mean, it's positive. So a little bit of background on my rating.
Yeah, please.
I am a very hardcore raider in 14. I clear within the top 50 groups usually. For ultimate, we placed 31st or something like that. Maybe
That's awesome.
I think it was 39th.
Okay.
And then this time I think we placed in top 25. Maybe we were 26 for this Eden tier. So raids pop, we go at it for 16 hours a day until it's down. We downed it on day 4 this time around because they were hard. They were a lot harder than we expected them to be.
Yeah.
So it took about 2 days longer than we expected it to take, which is good. I think that's good. So there comes something with the hardcore, or not hardcore, but savage raids this time around, where at first glance things look a lot harder than they actually are, because now that a couple weeks have gone by, people have studied the raids a lot more, people have come up with better strats, and the fights are a lot easier than we thought they were, basically.
Yeah.
Outside of like I think sick or E5 Ramu and E8 are both extremely good difficult fights. Those are very, very good. I still like the other two. I still really like 6 and 7, but they have been figured out and become so brain dead simple that most groups can go in and clear them in like their first day of trying if they really wanted to.
Talk to me about that process though. Like, you guys are going at it for 16 hours. What keeps you going? Like, you're in a pre-made, so that helps, because it, like, my curse has always been I've been able to find 5 to 6 people who want to do it, and then we have to pug it, and then it just like you get 3 attempts, and then you're like, and then you got to always start over with another pug, and it's like, well, like, it just ends up being where, all right, like, I'll do this maybe. So what's the mood? Talk to me about your preparation and how you go 16 hours.
Well, so generally, as far as the group goes, is within like 6 to 3 months before the fight even comes out, we've generally got a group planned. We'll reach out to people, and that's the biggest. I think that's the hardest part of raiding, is finding 7 other people to raid with. Mm-hmm. It always is, but excuse me. Once you find those people, the people that are willing to take time off work, time off school, or what have you, depending on how old they are, to do these upwards of a week worth of raids, you get together, and then what keeps you going is just down. You want to kill it, you want to get it down. Most people at that level of the game play specifically to play at that level of the game. Like, we pretty much pay $15 a month to raid. Like, even now, like, I'm raid logging in Final Fantasy XIV, which is when you just log in, raid, log out. Like, that's whenever you get your scheduled raids, you hop on, do them, and then you stop playing, and that's fine. And I'm okay with paying $15 a month to do that. That's my content in the game. Mm-hmm. So what keeps you going is just every day you make it further and further. You get the satisfaction of getting closer and closer to that kill, and you finally down it, and you scream like a bunch of idiots. Great.
So on that, like, I'm curious though, is like, because as far as it goes, would the game, or should the game, offer you more reasons to play?
I don't think so. I think the game is set in its way of. The thing is, me as a raider, if it just gave us more raid content, I feel like I might get exhausted. Mm-hmm. On one hand, but on the other hand, I would love always having something to look forward to. Which is, every 3 months we get a new raid, and not this time around, because Ultimate is, I think, coming out at the later end of the patch.
What do you think about that? Because actually, like, I'm 100% agree with you. I think that it's like Yoshi P's continual drumbeat is play other games. Like, like, we're going to keep doing these things. Take a break and go enjoy life.
Yeah. Well, I actually talked to somebody in my Twitch chat just yesterday about that. Is they were just talking about how, let me remember exactly how it was worded, but they were just basically talking about how they weren't having as much fun as when the expansion launched. And it's like, yeah, that's just, they were also talking about how they don't feel rewarded as someone who plays constantly. Whereas, in PSO2, you play constantly. You're always getting something out of it. You're always progressing your character or making money. Whereas in Final Fantasy XIV, the only thing you're really rewarded for playing constantly is like once you cap for the week, once you've done your raids for the week, you don't have a reason to play anymore.
Right.
Unless you're crafting or gathering, and you can make gil that way. But there's not much to spend it on. There's not really a whole lot of reason to make a whole lot of gil in Final Fantasy XIV.
I call it the crafter leaderboard. It's that like Chris has been just making bank, and he's just doing it because he sets out a goal, and he's like, I'm gonna see if I can make 50 million gil or something like that, and then he's like, I'm gonna go about doing that. Fine. And that's it. It's
fun for you. Yeah, if that's fun for you, enjoy it. Love it. You're getting more content out of your $15 a month than I am, so I can't rag on you.
No, and that's where it's like we have similar advice in that regards, because I have described 14 as one if not the best Final Fantasy game, and an okay MMO. It's like when you look at it, because people want that they want to live in that persistent world, and I go, there's a few things that they could do, but I don't know if they will. And when talking with Yoshi P, it's like I think it's a matter of like understanding as a developer to a developer the limitations within the system and the resources that are placed. And I think that for what they can do and what they do, it's an incredible piece of content. They put out just like the fact that Shadowbringers is like one of the best rated games for 2019 on Metacritic speaks to what they're doing and that story. And I go, when you're burned out, when you're tired, take a break. The story will come back. And typically the biggest time for the game is the 1 month after the expansion launched and the 3 months prior to the expansion launching, because it's people who've taken breaks, come back, they get caught up on all the story, and then they just plow into the next expansion and then just absorb that story like it is a standalone Final Fantasy game. And I think that's why them moving Ultimate to the last patch is genius.
I think that's good. If we're going to get 2 Ultimates in an expansion, I would rather it be at the later end when the lull hits, because if you take anything from Stormblood last expansion, it's that the end of the expansion was awful. If you actually wanted to play the game, there was absolutely nothing to do. We had 9 months of a Savage tier, and that was it. That's all we had. Mm-hmm. So I think moving the Ultimate to the later end is definitely a good idea. I still wish we got 3 Ultimates because what I do, but if we have to get 2, then that's the better way to do it. For sure.
And that's what I definitely sympathize with those who were frustrated by it, because I was like, I'm with you. Like, I think I would love it. I'm not an Ultimate Raider, and yet I think that content is important. I think Savage content is important. I think one change that I would love to see made is that I wish that all the gear that dropped out of dungeons, at least maybe with the exception of the current expansion, was tradable and enhanceable. Because I think that, like, I want to see more player economy. I want to see more reasons and more options for the play, like for things to happen. Imagine, like when people look at the glamour system and wanting to run a specific dungeon for a specific look, I think that would be great if somebody had the option to say, oh, I can go buy that, or I can go run that. Okay, what's your choice in choosing the content? Thus, if you happen to get that dungeon or you want to go farm that up because there's a big demand for the set from this tier, like I think that's something where from a player economy perspective, I wish there was a greater emphasis on it, because my critique, like I have all my crafters at cap. I have almost all my gatherers at cap. I've been doing it through the dailies and stuff like that just to see like, okay, like I'm hell bent on not hating the game. And I think that, burnout can cause people to be angry at it. And it's like, no, like, it's just like, all right, I'm going to play. And my whole thing is all about investment. I struggle with the relic system because I know it's going to become glamour. I struggle with like doing some of these things.
That's everything in the game though, right? Like everything becomes irrelevant.
Not everything. Leveling your classes, leveling your crafting, and leveling your gathering is actually the best form of horizontal like investment. Yeah. So that I invested my time into that prepares me for the next. It does get easier. So again, I'm not like killing myself to do so. And I respect people who can, like people who are like, I hit all my 80s by September. Like, you are incredible. Like, I hope you had a good time, and hopefully you're not at this point hating the game. My concern's always been with the players, like in that regards, who aren't having fun, and they are the most passionate supporters of the games, and then they flip on a dime, and then they're the most avid attackers of the games, and they're like, this game sucks. I can't believe I like it, and they're angry, and it's like, I'm just in my mind trying to set the expectation of like what the game is. And yes, I would love it to be more. I would love more reasons to go in and spend more time than just like, here's a couple of things that I do on a week by week basis. But it is what it is. And that's where Phantasy Star in its as a comparison draws me closer to itself right now. That's the
That
thing
game
that
is a grind.
it's
You
a
gotta play that
grind.
game.
It's a grind, but from an adult as a parent, like I've always, and I've said this once we started having kids, I was like, I'm not going to be first anymore. Like in this content, there's just
Oh
no
yeah.
way that I'll be in the top 50 or 100. But if I can if I can hit that, check that box a little, ring that bell a little bit every day, I'll get there. I'm the tortoise in the hare scenario, and I'm fine with that. Phantasy Star Online gives me the tortoise ability. Final Fantasy XIV, Destiny 2, Season of the Dawn, like,
Final Fantasy XIV wants everybody to be the tortoise is the problem with it.
yeah,
Nobody can be the hare. I mean, you be the hare and then you just sit there waiting for the
and you
tortoises.
get upset.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like that's why I actually do appreciate that Phantasy Star Online
Yeah.
2 lets people be the hare, but it also lets me continue to invest my time,
Yeah,
and I'll get
you can
there.
still make really nice progress by playing casually in PSO2.
Hmm.
You could still do your dailies and weeklies and slowly level up while also making a handful of money, and you'll be ready. And then when you hit Endgame, you can grind a little bit. It's the kind of game where you can just hop on, play a little bit, hop off. You
Yeah.
don't have to play it all the time.
I think that's what I'm really excited about for Phantasy Star Online 2 and for 14 coming to Xbox, is it's going to open it up to more people that have wanted to play the game than I can now play with. Phantasy Star Online 2 for sure, but even 14, my wife's planning on returning. My brother's like, he only has an Xbox. It's like, yeah, like, let's go and play this game together. And I think that it's about playing. For me, it where before it was about being first or trying to be the best. Now it's about playing with my family, playing with my friends, playing with the people that I care about. And that's just the transition from like having people that require me to function and to live right now. When they go off on their own, I hope that I'll have the drive to be able to, like, let me get back into the scene
Yeah.
and be as hardcore as I possibly can. But that's just where I fall in it. So, like, what are you looking forward to with 5.3? Like, so Ultimate's not here. There's not a new tier Savage. Like, what do you do in that period of time so that you enjoy your time and that you also don't come off going like, ah.
Well, so 5.3, the only thing we know for sure is that we're getting a new 24 man, and that's about it. I am excited for it because we've gotten the hint for what it is, and I'm a very big Nier Automata fan. So that's exciting. It's going to bring my favorite area into the game to 14, and that's going to be really cool. But other than that, I mean, maybe a new beast tribe, maybe. Like, I don't know. I'll just work on my beast tribes and then I'll play other games. That's it. I'll do my weekly chores and then I'll play other games.
How long do your weekly chores normally last you right now?
So I raid twice a week with I do my hardcore group. And then we clear, in the first week, and then we just it was nice raiding with you, see you in like 9 months. And then I have my casual group known as Nest. They're big on YouTube. They do their own thing, and we hang out and be idiots together, and it's great. And we get together twice a week for about 3 hours a night. So that's, I wouldn't call that a chore, but it's, it's a weekly activity I can do in the game.
Go ahead, sorry.
But other than that, just doing the daily beast tribes and doing my cactpot and all that, you log in for maybe like an hour a day.
So are you bringing any of your raid squad over into Phantasy Star Online 2 with you? Like, is Phantasy Star a good transition or a good game to pair with 14?
No, they're very different as far as progression goes and how you play, because 14's got its whole 8-man raid system, whereas PSO2 is just kind of hop in with 4, you get a party of 4 and you just grind content and hope you get good drops. There's not really much to schedule out. There's not really much to get a raid group together for or anything like that in that game. You just kind of do content as it pops up and enjoy yourself.
So what other games do you then marry with that, with the relationship with 5.3, right? So you're going to, you have a set time that you're going to play that game. Great. Mm-hmm. Like, what other games do you kind of then target to do that, especially as a content creator, streamer, both for YouTube and for Twitch? Talk to me about that whole process for you.
So Stormblood was a lot easier to answer that with because I just played 14. We had Eureka, which was not the most well received content, but as a content creator and a streamer, being able to hop into this map and just lose my mind grinding stuff, sorry, for like 4 hours, and just turn my stream on and grind for 4 hours was fantastic. It was the best content I could have asked for. And I mean, that's kind of what Diadem is right now, but on a less interesting scale. You just kind of run in and gather for a few hours, and that's cool. I'm interested to see what the new Relic stuff is going to be, because we're getting that in probably like a month or something like that. I don't think we have a confirmed date.
Yeah, 2.5, which is going to be the Blades of Gunhildr. It kicks off with the trial, which is a really interesting. That's exciting to see.
That'll be nice to stream.
It's gonna be fun to see how it evolves, because I think from like the Eureka content, what that did for me is it actually made me go play 11, because I realized how much I missed that content, and I was frustrated by how it was implemented. Namely because like you have a timer, like there was just things that I was like, if I could be in queue for PvP, I would be in this content every day. If I could level my
if it wasn't instanced, basically.
If it wasn't an instance. And so my hope, and I don't want to, and this is a far-fetched stream. I have no insight whether they're doing this or not. But my hope with World Visit is that they spin up this exploration content and treat it like it's its own server. You just go to this and it puts you into this world that is just that you're visiting, just like you would any other server on the thing. And that world has different rules in which that it operates on. So the enemies are harder and etc. You're not just running out in the open world. Because I was like, gosh, if this was just out in the world.
That's a really interesting idea. I like that. I've never heard that before.
As from a technological perspective, like my biggest concerns are with the technical debt with 14, and that all comes from how it came out to be. And that's what when I talk about like the issues with the game, I go, the reason why you're frustrated isn't because the devs aren't listening. It's because they want to, and it's just not going to turn around in 6 months. Like some things they can't.
We need Final Fantasy XIV 2 to come out.
And that's the ultimate question. Are they doing that?
Not anytime soon.
I don't think anytime soon. I wish they would like say here, because like I wouldn't want people to lose access to Heaven's Word or Shadowbringers. But they're redoing the 5.3 like with 5.3 the kind of the story and how that's going to work. So they're going to do what they can, and we just all hope that it's what the community ultimately is going to be excited about. And it's hard because the community has grown large and it's very diverse, and thus you end
very vocal too,
and you end up having more opportunities for drama. And I look back at Vieira, I think like, man, that could have been. Go ahead.
I think one thing 14 has going for it is that it's a lot of people's first MMOs. So like people like me who grew up on like free to play MMOs that are really grindy and always had you doing something. I feel like they're almost better off for not having grown up on that and gotten used to it rather, but because they can enjoy this and play at a more casual level. I feel like Final Fantasy XIV is the kind of game where the better you are at it, the less you have to do. Not the less you have to do, but the less
you need
the less you need to do, I guess. You don't spend as much time on it, the better the better you are.
Like I go in and I do something like, because just how my schedule works, similar to what you have with raiding, I schedule dedicated game time. It's like, and it's on my calendar. I was doing Sundays and Mondays. I've had to have now canceled Sundays, and Monday nights is my dedicated game time. We call that community game night. But that's essentially where it's like I have a goal that I'm going to reach by the end of that, and that's kind of when it ends. Like, and I usually set these random goals, but it's very focused, and I get a lot accomplished. Like, it's just, and I would not recommend this mindset when playing with my kids, because like I have to flip a switch. I was playing Secret of Mana with Maddie, and I had to sit here and go, it's not about getting to the goal as quickly as possible. I know where to go. I know what to do. We should be grinding. We need to hit these levels. We need to get this. No. Let's let her explore. Let's just play the game and experience it from her perspective. And as an adult, like that's where it's like gaming is awesome and I love it. And then at the same time, I also enjoy the fact that I'm not scheduled out and I'm not a streamer. I really love that I'm not that, because it's like I would be an asshole. Because it would be like boom, 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 boom. Here's everything I've done. And according to what I call the rule of thirds in terms of content creation, you have hype, you have grind, and then you have bitch. And those are the three. Like when you look at like content creators in the category of a game, you get excited for a game, you play the heck out of it. Like you would put more like by the time the community catches up, like it would be months of content and you knock it out in weeks, and then you complain about it, and that's essentially like that's what I see a lot on the
No,
YouTube
you're
cycle.
absolutely
It's
right.
it's the rule of thirds. I'm gonna coin that the hashtag.
I like
True.
it. That's extremely true too.
And it's so that it's like, okay, like how can a game designer, okay, so this is a question to you, how can they make content that speaks to the streaming world and also to the real world?
I think Eureka was a step in the right direction for that specifically, but they went about it a little, the first couple iterations of it weren't great. And to get to the later iterations that were good, you had to trudge through the garbage ones. So, like, if they could do that with what they've learned and make it good immediately, then that would be great. But it's also extremely obvious that that's not what their goal is. They don't care to entice players to play for hours and hours every single day. They that's not their goal. That's very obvious. Yoshida said it himself multiple times. Play other games alongside this, So I don't know. Bottom line is I have no clue.
So my thought is that when I look at the theme park, it's the theme park versus sandbox, and I would love to see them merge those two concepts together.
Yeah.
Because the theme park is great, it's curated, you have this amazing experience, and then it would be great if players were able to take that and then make it up. Because like no game developer will ever be able to satiate the demand that players have. Like there's just no way. However, like when you go, that's where like when you look at sandboxes, they have long lives. They need content, but they don't need it as often and so sandbox content within 14 would be, the rebuilding of Ishgard, and it does have an expiration, but rebuilding of Ishgard, it has the role playing, that's sandbox. It gives players this ability to explore within the tools that they have. The housing system is somewhat sandbox in that regard, giving players tools to just make up and do different things like that. And so I think 14 would benefit from that. I think that it's good. That's why I'm actually really excited about New World. Have you followed that game at all?
No, I haven't heard of it.
New World, Amazon Game Studios, coming out this year. It's more focused around PvP, which speaks to me. I actually been playing Warhammer Online the last 2 days. Amazing. Like, I missed that game so much. EA sucks for canceling it. Well, I mean, they suck regardless, but but beyond that, like it's like the one thing I think that Warhammer made a mistake is they had the two faction system, and that's not what you want. So New World's bringing in 3 factions, and it'd be cool if there was more, but 3 factions. So that way, if one faction gets more popular, you can always end up having 2 factions kind of try to team up and give them grief and things like that. Make it harder for them to hold on to that power. And so it's kind of where you can do PvE and PvP kind of content and quests based off of what you want. And so by doing PvE quests, you're adding to the war effort and trying to take over control. Like it's just whatever you're doing is also adding to this. So if you feel like you just want to go grind on mobs, like that's adding to that. Final Fantasy XI was fantastic with its conquest system with the 3 factions, and then the 4th faction being kind of the beastmen, the NPCs. And so it's kind of like that's where I was like, all of a sudden when they started talking about the factions and playing Warhammer, I was like, yeah, the mistake Warhammer made is that they try to restrict it to 2 factions, and it should have been more.
That never works.
And it doesn't, because one faction inevitably is going to be the place you play. If you sit here, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm not super into PvP games at all. I like usually if an MMO's end game is PvP focused, I'll usually just avoid it.
Yeah.
It's not for me.
Right.
I get way too salty. It's not in me. I got to take myself out of those situations. But I played Blade and Soul when that came out, and that was a 2 faction game, and exactly what happened. One side became extremely unbalanced. Everyone joined it, and
right, because eventually you're just going to go there. Go ahead.
If you want to get anything done, you join that faction, or else you're just going to get griefed.
And then that just continues to feed into that itself. So that's where it's like I'm very curious as to see how that kind of plays out in a modern world. I'm curious. New World, I don't know if it's going to be good or not. I'm curious to see if my love of sandboxes is true, or if it's just an illusion of like, I remember when games were good. Like you get that a lot. Like games were great back in the day. It's like games are great today. Like there's things that suck sometimes within the industry,
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's like somebody was watching me play PSO2. I was playing JP, just showing it off for the people who are interested.
Yeah.
And somebody's like, "Man, what happened to this game? It used to be so much better." It's like, have you played the old PSO? It's 20 years old. It's awful. It's not good.
Yeah. If it was,
played
people
it
would
the
still
other
play it.
day. Yeah.
I have it
people do
installed.
play it. Yeah, I have Blue Burst. I've got
Yeah.
the Affinity server installed. It's great.
Yeah.
But it didn't age well. And it's also interesting to see people say that because there was a very obvious leap from PSO episode 1 up to PSO2.
Mhm.
The games went in this direction over the course of 12 years.
It probably also helps that the game was offline. Like they even went to with PSU, like there wasn't really an option with PSO2. It wasn't like these games are still online and still supported. It's just kind of, for me, nuts. Because when you bring up the mindset of the OGP and your sub, you pay $15 a month to raid twice a week within 14. More when obviously the content is fresh, but you get into a cycle. I fully expect that at some point, just like with Game Pass, that Square Enix will have its own subscription model in which that you pay $15, a month, and then all of a sudden you have access to 11 to 14 to Dragon Quest X to all of Square Enix's library, or at least last year's games or more. And so like you're sitting here like, all right, well, I did my rating. I'm still in the Square Enix ecosystem, right? Because essentially the message that some people receive, especially when they're maybe only logging in once a week, is I'm just going to unsub. And I would think Square Enix wants to hold on to that money, and they have this incredible IP. In my mind, it's more valuable than Nintendo's, but I followed Square. I didn't really I have my Nintendo for Mario, but wherever Square was publishing, that's the console I was on. And
I'd say I agree with that. I also tended to follow. There's a company publishing games you like, you buy what you could play those games on.
Yeah. So, any other thoughts before we wrap up? Any final thoughts for the show? Anything we covered? Horizon, PlayStation, State of 14, Phantasy Star Online 2?
I'm reading your chat right now, and old PSO was definitely better. The combo system was way more interesting. It was the same thing. You just press one button over and over.
It was a timing. It was kind of a rhythm game to it.
You still do that. Yeah, you still do that in PSO2. And if you like a combo based class, there are Etoile literally benefits from using different PAs. Mm-hmm. Just find what you like, man.
Absolutely.
I think the game has evolved from PSO episode 1 into PSO2 very graciously. If you play PSO1 episode 1 and 2, you see where the bottom line is. You see where they started 20 years ago, and you can see where they're aiming. It's very anime. It's very slow because it's all you could do back then. It's what it is. And then Phantasy Star Universe comes out. It's a little faster. They've got the PA system. And then the in-between games, you got Phantasy Star Portable, you've got Phantasy Star Zero, which both ended up being quite fast-paced, and then PSO2 comes out, and that's the culmination of all of that evolving into what it is today, and I think it's very interesting to see that.
So I love you. She says, but brand loyalty is stupid, right? It's like, to a degree, like if Square Enix decides to go and do something I don't like, I'm not going to support it. But I'm not
going to buy a Square Enix game I don't like just because it's Square Enix. Right. But they've got a good track record, Yeah,
and that's the thing when it comes down to it. And I haven't posted a video on it because I haven't figured out the right words to say. Sometimes it's just like, gosh, I want to say it, but it's going to come off wrong. Somebody called me an elitist the other day, and I was like, oh, please clarify. Let me know, because I'm not trying to be an elitist. I'm trying to be inclusive. Oh gosh, I lost my train of thought. Brand loyalty, I forgot it. Well, the real best shows here, nothing but the best.
The bottom line is that you're an elitist.
That's right. Well, the thing we could take away from all of this is that I am an elitist. Perfect. Tate, where can people find you? What you got coming up?
Oh man, Golden Top pretty much anywhere. Twitch.tv, YouTube, Twitter, all that good stuff. I tweet. It's not good content on Twitter. It's just spewing random thoughts, usually on the toilet. YouTube is highlighted works, and stuff like that. There's going to be a couple of PSO2 guides coming up there because I just want to spread the word and hope people don't mess up feeding their mags, basically. Hands down, dude, and they will. Yeah. Like, hands is like, like I did it for science. I was like, see how easy, and it's such a time consuming effort or a financial one to fix it.
So it's just like, all right,
Oh,
buy a
yeah.
new one. You know, it's like,
Enjoy
here's,
grinding your X cubes, man.
oh, dude, hell,
Hey, they
like,
made it cheaper. It used to be 50 X cubes per level down.
yeah, it's 5
Um,
now, right? 5.
5, yeah,
We
thank
assume
God.
that it's also that way in NA. Like this is not the
It
current
is.
version.
It
Oh, it
is.
is good.
Yeah, somebody looked at the X cube shop in the beta, and it's the exact same as JP.
Oh, that's good. That's good that
So
they've
yeah.
also learned from, you know, all of that. Good stuff.
Mhm.
All right, guys, be sure to check out Tate on all of his platforms. Check out his content. Fantastic content creator. Really great hanging out with you out at the media tour. Hopefully, are you gonna be
Yeah.
at FanFest this year?
Yeah. I mean, if it doesn't get canceled or anything like that.
I heard, yeah, E3 got canceled or something like that. I don't know if it's official, but it's
Yeah, I don't know if it's official, but it's been talked about. A lot of conventions have been getting canceled.
It just makes sense. We're in
Mhm.
Dallas, and there's already like another 6 cases that have just popped up. That's just gonna because of the nature, you have no symptoms and you're spreading it around. Like it's like, yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll just continue being a neat if that's the case, man. I'll just
Well, that's the thing. Like I work from home, and that's a real blessing. I've been telling my wife, like, all right, you know what, we're not like we're debating right now, like, do we just send Maddie to school? And I said no. Like I'm like, she's in kindergarten. We can stay at home for a while. We
Yeah.
can weather this out, you know. So that's gonna be how good luck, everybody. Stay safe. I was actually
Yeah.
hoping to go to E3, but I was like, once all this stuff started happening, I was like,
Apparently,
oh,
it's officially been canceled according to chat. Yeah, they
officially been
released a
canceled.
statement
Yeah,
today.
that was solid this morning. I was like, yeah, it just makes
That's
sense.
crazy, man.
Well, you know, I think that's where I think that's probably going to be best because now you can see like Nintendo Directs, like let Sony do a Direct, let them do that. And I think that could ultimately kind of be where maybe that's where the industry's been heading all this time anyway.
Yeah.
So,
But if FanFest is there, I'll be there. Maybe, probably.
maybe, probably, as
You
long
know,
as assuming nobody is ill.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want this conflu. All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Usually we have Chris here where we do the typical outro in which that I would say, my name is Brian, this is Work to Game, blah, 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 and go around and see if our guest caught on to it. But we're not going to do that because it doesn't work when I just stare at the camera ceaselessly. Let's see here. We've got more content coming out on YouTube. You can, if you found this, hopefully you found our YouTube channel. In which that I've got some stuff for Warhammer Online that I want to make. I've got some stuff for Phantasy Star Online 2 that's going to be rolling out on Ginger Prime. We got New World coverage that's going to be coming up. And yeah, I'm still leveling up Gunbreaker. I love that job. I
It's a good job.
love it. Like, oh my gosh. Anyway, so Gunbreaker is phenomenal. And so, yeah, that's what it is. Thanks everybody for tuning in. For Work to Game, my name's Brian. This is Tate. Thanks for tuning in. Perfect.
Of course.
Hopefully you guys have a great week. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Take care.